Before we start, I want to make it clear I'll only be talking about the FPS aspects of the game. That's not to say there are not plenty of other issues, I just don't feel qualified to talk about them. Star Citizen is the game of my dreams, an expansive universe complete with all the lifestyles someone in the frontier of space might want. And as an experienced FPS player with thousands of hours in games from Doom to Rainbow Six Siege, one of the very first things that caught my eye was the original Star Marine demo. In this expansive universe CIG was creating, we would be able to battle for control of space stations and bases, seamlessly transitioning from spaceflight to the first-person combat I was used to. Even more than that, Star Citizen would make this combat more realistic than ever, with things like individual limb damage and detailed healing. But in the years since, as we wait for these more complex features to arrive, many bugs and inconsistencies have arisen that CIG has yet to address, that have all but ruined the fun arcade-style shooter they call Star Marine. Aside from the many glitches plaguing the under-cared-for mode, the current movement mechanics in this expansive universe are flawed in many ways. Today we will talk about some of the things CIG did wrong, as well as some of the things they did right. I can already hear some of you rushing in the comments to point out how this game is an alpha and they'll be changing all of this in the future. My goal here is not to slam Chris Roberts and his team, but to point out some of the things they could work on to make Star Citizen as a whole a better experience, because the game is still an alpha and there's plenty of time to work on the issues here. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button so we can beat the YouTube algorithm. It's free and videos like this take a while to make. Starting off with something good, proning. Jumping in a new game for the first time and realizing you can't prone is so disappointing. Lying down opens up a ton of new gameplay options and diversifies the gunplay. While you won't catch me on the ground much in Star Marine, it can make things like holding with little cover and low peaks possible when they would otherwise be very difficult. I think due to Star Citizen's wide scope, it wasn't a tough choice for the devs to implement, but it's still something I do really appreciate having. This brings me to my first point of contention with Star Marine. It feels lethargic. Entering and exiting, sprinting, leaning either direction, and especially strafing. Sprints and leans need to be instant. I understand that there could be a delay for realism. You wouldn't be able to go from standing still to sprinting in real life, but when realism hurts gameplay, that's when it becomes time to make a change. Now I'm not sure if this is something to do with netcode or latency, or if it is a deliberate delay for realism, but right now I can get you in some sticky situations, and it should be a pretty easy fix on the dev side. One counter to this is that the gameplay shouldn't become more arcadey, and things like sprinting and leaning without the admittedly small delay we currently have make it an arcadey Modern Warfare-esque shooter. And to an extent, I agree. This shouldn't be a flick shooter like CSGO or Valorant, but that's why we have things like higher time to kill than your average shooter. Making the movement feel snappy and responsive will just help gameplay, not make it arcadey. Another thing we need to talk about is strafing. If you watch your character's legs while strafing left and right, you'll see how slow your feet move. Almost like you're sneaking around corners, and most of the time I come around a corner, I'm not trying to sneak. And there's no reason not to pick up the speed at which light and medium armor can strafe side to side. So back to a positive about movement, the ability to lean. Just like my point before, I love that Star Citizen has a very in-depth movement system and is implementing things like vaulting, leaning, and proning, along with their 0G EVA mechanics. I think that's laid a solid groundwork for a very creative and unique video game. One more issue I have with movement is jumping. Currently, you can jump like 6 feet and spin to one side or the other and shoot while in the air. This is a cheese mechanic for taking care of people camping in corners. While certainly viable in low gravity systems, it shouldn't be able to be done in many of the maps as effectively as it is now, as we can reasonably assume that the simulated gravity on the station should be about 1G, and jumping should feel about normal. Jumping in the inconsistent gravity I mentioned also has some serious negative side effects on going up and down stairs while sprinting. Going upstairs results in your feet basically catching the ledges of stairs and tripping you as you move up the stairs. Sprinting downstairs basically demonstrates the gravity issues mentioned previously even more, as you will literally sprint faster horizontally than gravity can pull you down to the next stair, and you'll end up pretty much floating and hopping down the stairs. This is pretty problematic because it introduces more movement inconsistencies that add to what I was talking about before, and make the game feel more floaty and lethargic than snappy and accurate. That's it for my issues with movement. Are there other things I could talk about? Absolutely. But I think covering everything would take me an hour. So today we're going to be sticking to the more major topics. The next thing I want to talk about is how all of you smash that like button to beat the YouTube algorithm. Alright, but in all seriousness, we need to touch on animations. My first point in that category, and the ones that follow, will be ones that really apply to Star Citizen as a whole instead of more specifically to the Star Marine module. The first is animations teleporting you in and out of them. If you initiate a ship exit animation, then step away, it will literally still teleport you to that door or ladder. This massively breaks immersion. In some situations, there's a trigger that stops you from teleporting too far, but I think it needs to be brought closer because you can still have your character jump 3 or 4 feet. Animations also could be redone so that anywhere in that trigger range, your player steps into the correct position instead of teleporting there. I know this is a bit hard to explain, so please take a look at the footage you should be seeing on your screen around now. In relation to this, a rush animation key needs to be implemented into many animations, such as standing up after falling over from EVA. There's no reason that landing on my face after a failed EVA, while literally in a hot zone, my character just lies on the ground for a bit before slowly standing up. My idea to fix this is simply to add a rush animation key. This is a key you would spam that would speed up the animation while it was being spammed. To stop people from just spamming through all animations, it would heavily elevate your heart rate to do this, but it would certainly be worth it instead of just laying on the ground while people are shooting at you. With this said, the animations in Star Citizen definitely are a good point on my list. Getting to my Gladius and watching that flight ready animation never gets old. Star Marine maps. I don't really have too much to say on this topic. They're all solid and pretty fun to play. Good Doctor should honestly be called Great Doctor, because it is a really solid map, except for this. I can't play pool with bullets. Before we move on to my bugs and needed features, sort of miscellaneous category, I wanted to give the last positive I'm going to talk about today. Not because I've mentioned everything that I like about Star Citizen's first-person aspect, just everything I feel fits well for this video. There are a ton of different weapons and gear accessible in Star Marine, and you don't need REC for any of it. Best of all, it's all balanced pretty well. More on that in another video though. Please keep it this way, CIG. Arena Commander recently began to require REC instead of allowing the use of PU ships, and the way we have it now allows Star Marine to be competitive and fun for everyone. The only suggestion I have here is to add some more attachments, like a muzzle brake and maybe some more grips or something. Plenty of places add cool stuff here, but nothing done wrong so far. Alright, bugs and simple yet necessary features. Gonna go through these fast, but enjoy some of the wonderful clips I'll be using this part. HUD issues. Like, come on, how hard can it be to clear the annoying respawning box that's literally been all my background footage so far? Also, on Last Stand, there are some serious issues with the control points showing ownership and capture amount properly. Next up, bullets shoot below the reticle. I did test this with other sights and guns, so I know it's not specific to my loadout. I'm not sure why this is, like if it's for realism with zeroing sights and stuff, then our major realism shouldn't trump gameplay point from earlier really does apply here. Feels like you have a bullet drop at 10 meters, and this has got to be fixed because it makes it very difficult to tell whether there are issues with hit reg, or if you're just missing because the bullet isn't actually going where you're aiming. The most impactful bug we'll be talking about today, and if anybody from CIG is watching this and takes one thing away from this video, please take away how game-breaking this bug is. You can sometimes spawn in with your gun literally unloaded and have to reload. In elimination, this is a death sentence, and in Last Stand, the couple seconds this can delay you can cost you rounds. You can tell this is going to happen by seeing if one of your spare mags is in use in the menu. If 0 are in use and you have the weapon equipped, you will respawn with it unloaded. Sometimes choosing a different gun will fix this, sometimes it won't. Maybe this could be fixed by adding an attachment slot to manually put the magazine in. This could also be fixed by people smashing that like button. Quickly wrapping up, two features I think would really help Star Marine are the addition of a chat and some way to view weapon stats instead of just a description in the equip menu. Chat is not just so I can be toxic to kids I'm slamming, but also would be super useful for debugging problems and helping everyone find solutions. I'm actually super surprised this hasn't been added earlier. Stats should also be pretty easy to add as they're numbers CIG already has, and they would just have to add them somewhere in the weapon description. Alright, thank you for taking some time out of your day to listen to me rant about many of the problems plaguing the first-person module, one of the games with the most potential since the beginning of gaming. With Squadron 42 on the horizon, I'm excited to see what more polishing and improvements for that fix issues I mentioned here. If you're interested in seeing me slam more wannabe Boba Fett's in Star Marine, please check out some of my other videos and consider subscribing. This is my first video like this, so drop any feedback and suggestions you have in the comments down below. Thanks, and I'll see you in the verse.